And today we have a very special guest. We have a children's book author. Mark Rogalski is with us today. Mr. Rogalski, thanks for coming on.
My pleasure. It's great to be here.
So when did you know that you wanted to be a children's author?
Pretty much from the time I was very young. I loved to draw, and was always interested in children's books and the pictures, more interested in the pictures than the words. I ended up going to art college to study illustration, and the question everybody asked me is, what are you going to do with an illustration major? And in the back of my mind, I thought, well, one day I'll illustrate a children's book. That's what I did.
Well, you've illustrated 3, and we actually have all 3 of them here today, and we'll preview those a little later.
So your first book was published in 2006. What kind of jobs did you have before that?
Before that, I was an editorial illustrator. I started, my first job out of college was doing editorial cartoons for the Philadelphia Inquirer. I became a cartoonist for comic books. I was a set designer, working on props and scenery. I became a silk screener. Actually had a silk screen business for a while. Then I got involved with graphic design and became an art director for a couple of years. And then I had an opportunity to finally get back to what I wanted to do all along, and that was to work on children's books.
Right. Now, we were talking before the interview that you worked for the Philadelphia Inquirer writing editorials.
Doing the illustrations for editorials.
Right. Okay.
Did that for a number of years.
And you did all sorts of illustrations for those.
Oh yes, political drawings, environmental issues, a lot of issues for the city, some military issues. It was a wide range of items.
Right.
That was a fun job because it was usually a very quick turnaround. If they wanted to do topics that were very of the moment, you had to do a very quick turnaround. So you learned to work quickly. We also got a nice education as far as what was going on politically, and opinion-wise, the city. Very strong opinions in the city.
Okay, so when you got back to the children's books, what was the publishing process like for your first book?
When I decided to work on a book, I really wasn't aware of the process. There's a whole process. The publishing industry is very regimented as far as what you should do to submit a book, and I didn't follow any of that. I basically worked on a book and then submitted to different publishers a finished product. I'm an illustrator, so I was very interested in illustrating this book as well as writing it, and I thought the way that I was going to get my work out there was to go into a publisher with a finished product. So once I came up with the book, Tickets to Ride, I basically did my homework as far as what publishers might be interested in the book, looking at similar styles. I didn't want to send to a publisher that didn't do anything like this book that I was presenting.
Right.
So I consider myself pretty lucky. It took about 10 months to find a publisher, multiple submissions, multiple rejections. But after 10 months, I found an interested publisher, and they wanted to do this book pretty much just like what I showed them.
Right. And we actually have a copy of Tickets to Ride right here. I don't know if we can get a close-up of a couple of the illustrations here, but I mean, the illustration for these books is just amazing.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I mean, you did a lot of work on the computer for this, right?
All the finished work was done on the computer. I taught myself how to do illustrations on the computer to do this book. Before that, I was doing traditional acrylic paintings, and unfortunately, I'm methodically slow when it comes to painting, and I thought, well, if I'm going to do a book, it's going to take me forever, so I'll need to switch gears. And that's when I started to develop a portfolio of computer work. And basically, it was those images for the computer that turned into this book.
And then you, in 2007, won the International Reading Association Prize for this book. What was that like?
That was an award for writing, actually. The International Reading Association is an organization that promotes literacy on all levels, all over the world. And it could be literacy from adults who can't read to people who maybe English is a second language. It's a great organization. And to win a writing award, I'm an illustrator, and to win a writing award was a bit surreal. But it was a lot of fun. I got to go up to Toronto and accept the award and meet a ton of interesting people and authors and people doing amazing projects. So I felt very humbled, but it was very exciting.
Yeah.
That's great. All right, well, we're going to take a little break, and we're going to head over to Heather Ashley with weather. How's the weather today, Heather Ashley?
Thanks, James. Well, it is currently 30 degrees and mostly cloudy. Later on today, there will be heavy rain, possibly to a total of an inch, with a high of 51 and a low of 47. As we look at the 5-day forecast, tomorrow will be partly sunny and very windy, with a high of 60 and a low of 34. Friday will be mostly sunny, with a high of 47 degrees and a low of 30. As we look into the weekend, Saturday will be cloudy and a little chillier with a high of 41 and a low of 26. Sunday will be partly sunny with a high of 42 degrees and a low of 26. And into next week, Monday will be mostly sunny with a high of 44 and a low of 26. That's all for your weather report. Now back to James and Mary Bridget.
All right, thanks Heather Ashley. And we're back with Mark Rogalski. Mr. Rogalski is a children's author. Now your second book is called Dream Machines, and it was published in 2008. Could you tell us a little bit about the background of how you came up with the idea for the story?
Sure. This book came about not necessarily as a spin-off of the first book, but I had a lot of ideas about these vehicles, these machines. And also an idea that came about in the first book was this fictitious company called Rocket Novelty. And the publisher was very interested in the identity of Rocket Novelty and wanted to kind of go a little bit deeper as far as what they did. So the items in this book and the idea of Rocket Novelty put together for a story that talks about a little boy who, it's bedtime, he has no interest in going to bed. And he thinks he has to make a wish to find a star. When he finds his star, he's going to stay awake all night and play.
And here's the little boy right here in the book.
So he ends up inventing, we think, all these vehicles that take him from his bedroom out into the world, and through the ocean, and finally into the sky and into space to find his wishing star. At the end of the book, we find he's actually asleep. And so this book basically is a big game. It's about the boy thinking he's on a quest, but it's really a game. And throughout the book are small little games, word games, visual games. So it's all about play and word play. There are palindromes and riddles. And the big feature of this book is when you remove the dust jacket, that it actually turns into a literal board game.
All right.
That follows along with the boy's quest.
I'll let you show us the board game here.
Sure. A little help. So this was a lot of fun. This is one of the things I always wanted to do.
Let's see if we can get a shot of that.
Was to design a board game.
Look at this. This is a whole board game here.
And this comes with each book, obviously.
Yeah. So the book jacket just opens up into it.
Exactly.
That's
exactly.
very convenient.
Expands on the idea of this Rocket Novelty Company and the idea of you being able to play along to try to win the star at the end.
Right.
And did you have the idea for the board game the whole time you were writing it, or did it come kind of after the fact?
It evolved as every project does. I had a basic idea of trying to come up with these ideas for Rocket Novelty. And in the back of my mind the whole time I kept saying, it's a game, it's a game, it's a game. And finally it was like, well, why not actually make it a game? So we worked out the logistics of being able to put that into a dust jacket that was durable enough. And it came together pretty nicely.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, once again, the animation for this book is just amazing here. So did you go about doing this on the computer?
Once again, on the computer.
Yeah.
My process is that I sketch everything out
Right.
beforehand, and then I refer to my sketches and start drawing all over again on the computer. I work in Photoshop, which is primarily a photo retouching program, but I actually draw in it. I find it just very natural to do that. And hopefully no one else is doing that. So, hopefully there's a unique look to my work.
Yeah.
So how do you get inspiration for your stories?
Boy, that's a tough one. A lot of ideas are things that I've just always been interested in. I'll keep journals with ideas, sketches, obviously, tons of sketchbooks. And when I'm working on something, trying to come up with ideas, I'll just go back over my notes and then start to see connections and associations. And when you start to put them together, stories evolve and ideas evolve. And there's a lot of trial and error, a lot of things get tossed, but hopefully enough sticks. And those things that stick hopefully are good enough to make it into a book.
Yeah.
Now, you took home some more hardware for this book. You were a merit winner at the 23rd Annual New York Book Show. So you went to New York for that, I assume?
Actually, I couldn't make it up for that
okay.
show, but that was a big deal. And what was nice about this was actually a design award.
Okay. Not a writing award.
Not a writing award.
Right.
Which was great for the first book. But because this is such a heavily designed book, it was great to be recognized for that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I mean, the detail on all of those illustrations is amazing. Does it take you a lot of time to do just one page?
It can. What's great about working on the computer is that it's very easy for me to go back and revisit and to add and to edit and to change. I used to work in acrylics, and it was very tedious for me. It was methodically slow, and anytime I needed to change anything, it was almost like starting over again. But with the computer, you can change the color palettes very easily and add and subtract. So for me, it became my tool of choice, and I can work on these things forever. The hard part is actually stopping or knowing when to stop. So yes, I would work on these for hours and hours and hours, just to hopefully get them to where I thought they were interesting. My philosophy is when I'm working on these books, besides coming up with something that I know I would be interested in finding, interested in buying, interested in looking at over and over again. My philosophy really is more is more. And that's kind of what I've tried to do with all my projects.
All right. Well, Brian Sizik and Alex Nofer are ready for sports. Brian, Alex, what's going on?
Yes, thank you. Today I have Alex Nofer on the show with doing sports with me today, my fellow sports guru. But we'll start off with the Tiger news. We'll update you each day. But the latest news is the police, after their very long investigation, have decided that Tiger Woods was at fault and in the one-car accident.
Yeah, that was a tough
Breaking news.
tough investigation there.
Now, the attorney for the neighbor that called 911 did release a statement, and he said that his client said that Woods was not appeared to be under the influence. There was no signs of a fight, and his injuries were consistent with a car accident and not domestic violence. And they said Woods, when they came out, Woods was woozy and had scratches on his face, which was consistent with a car accident. So hopefully we can get beyond this case and Tiger can just go back to playing golf.
Yeah.
Now, some very large news. The latest in the Iverson deal with the Sixers is he has been offered a one-year deal by the 76ers. He is expected to decide whether he is going to accept it today.
Yeah, I've heard that it's a non-guaranteed contract. He wants a guaranteed contract, so it's going to be interesting to see what he decides. I'm not sure right now, but he's shown that he's not very desperate in his retirement, so or doesn't. He wants the contract he wants to actually get it. So
I think the Sixers need to do whatever they can to get Iverson here. No one really goes to the games much, and they need some ticket sales. So hopefully we can get them. Now we'll move on to boxing news. We usually don't talk about that, but Alex, do you want to?
Oh yeah, Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao finally decided to fight. Probably the two best fighters in the world right now. This is going to be huge to try to save the sport of boxing, and they're both very quick, and it's going to be very interesting. I might actually buy that pay-per-view.
Okay, and in the final news, in the NCAA basketball rematch of the championship game, North Carolina beat Michigan State again. North Carolina was 12 and Michigan State was 2 in the rankings. They won 89-82.
Yeah, and that really shows the ACC dominance right there as they beat the number 2 team in the nation.
Now back to James before we get killed.
All right, thank you, Brian. Thank you, Alex. We're back here with Mr. Rogalski, a children's author. Now we're going to talk about your third book, which you've just released, and it is called Robox. And we have, it's not only a book, but you can also build the robots. So tell us a little bit about it.
Robox is a kit. Comes in this box, and within the box is this book, the storybook about Robox. Got a little boy who needs to build this for his own purposes, and Robox takes on a life of its own, and mayhem ensues. Wraps up nicely in the end, nice little tale. And this is the actual Robox that you can build from the parts.
Which is also in the story here?
It is.
Yeah.
Definitely, it's
right
in
here.
the story. So whoever wants to buy this, for your children, for yourself, if you collect robots,
And you can see the robot is
you can
right
actually
there.
do what the hero of the book does and build your own robot. And the idea behind this all stemmed from a gift box that I had built and designed many, many years ago.
Yeah, which you actually have here today.
So yes, this was the first box that I built in the shape of, TV, a computer, a robot, and it was a gift box. And it was a big hit, and everybody enjoyed it. And they said, you got to build another one. The only problem with the first one was that when you opened it, you tore it apart and destroyed it. So later I built this one, which is essentially a very fancy gift box, and it opens up and there's cavities inside to put the items, the gift items. And I did this about 15 years ago.
Right.
And at that point in time, I, for whatever reason, came up with a name for it and called it Robox.
Yeah, so this was actually a long process.
It was, and then it just sat on the shelf, and every time I went past it, I thought, it'd be nice to do something with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't have an outlet to do anything, or so I thought. And at the time when Tickets to Ride was being published, my publisher issued me a challenge saying we're trying to come up with kids' kits. And the driving force behind these were these boxes. Everything had to fit inside a very specific size box. And
Right.
as soon as the publisher said box, I immediately thought back to my original Robox. And I came up with this design. What made it interesting for the publisher was that mostly everything they were doing were these little items that fit inside these boxes. And I thought, well, what if you make the box itself part of the product? That way the product can be as large as possible.
Right.
So it's very unexpected to kind of open up this box and then to have the product grow in size. And then we had to write a story for it, and the story follows along the philosophy of what this box is and how the boy uses the box. And then my goal is that people, once they assemble this thing, will actually use this as a box to display items, whether it's small collections, photographs. When I go to bookstores, I take one filled with gumballs, and that seems to be the most popular one.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Now, is it simple enough that a child could build it, or do they need help?
Well, I did have my daughter build one while I was at Barnes & Noble reading, and she's 7 years old, and she managed to put it together.
Wow.
It does come with visual instructions, and there are clues throughout the book and to allow the reader to easily put it together. Everything's illustrated, so I would say small children probably might need some help. Adults might need some help too.
Yeah.
But it's fun to do.
Now, this you've got to be expecting some great holiday gift sales for this book.
Hopefully so. It's there's a diversity to this that it just doesn't have to end up in bookstores.
Right.
So it could end up as a gift item. Could end up in museum stores,
Yeah.
things like that. So we have our fingers crossed.
Wow. And so does making this kind of inspire you to do more things that aren't necessarily children's books?
Yes, this is, I've always had an interest in doing dimensional items. So to be able to put this box together and to engineer how all the pieces fit together so they fit inside was a lot of fun. Breaking free of the book format with Dream Machines and the game board was huge. It was a lot of
Right.
fun to
Yeah.
do that, to have another object come out of the book. This product, where the whole kit itself is something above and beyond and takes on a life of itself, is a great idea, and I'd love to come up with a series of these or to see where I can go next.
You've already received a lot of notoriety for this. You've been to a lot of book signings, and you even appeared on the 10 show on NBC.
On the 10 show, yes, not as big as this show. Been up to New York a couple times with it.
Great.
So we're out and running with it.
Great.
All right. Well, we're just about out of time, but this is a question that I wanted to ask. What was your favorite children's book going on?
My favorite children's book, well, I had a couple standards, Where the Wild Things Are, which everybody knows about, and then later in life I was a big fan of Chris Van Allsburg. But I grew up with a children's book that I received from my mother that actually she got as a child, and it's a little-known book called Children's Guide to the Saguenay, which is a heavily illustrated book about a boat trip down the St. Lawrence and through Canada, and those illustrations inspired me. They're very detail-oriented, little details everywhere, and that book I actually still have on my bookshelf. That's the book that I
Wow.
refer to. Yeah, and it's about 60 years old, that book.
Oh my
All
gosh.
right. Well, we are about out of time on Mainline Morning today. Thanks, Mr. Rogalski. Really appreciate
pleasure.
you coming
My
out
pleasure.
today. All right, that does it for Mainline Morning. I'm James Connors.
And I'm Mary Bridget Kane.
Bye-bye.